Okay, I'm sure nobody here can remember the days when we used to have what's called a credit card imprinter, affectionately known as a knuckle buster, because every time it would draw a little bit of blood. And those things we thought were great with credit cards, and sadly, of course, at the end of the day, people had to get on the phone and call in and authorize, and then we graduated to the terminal. And we had a dot matrix terminal, and we were able to slide the card. It ran on a phone line, and we thought that was pretty slick. And then all of a sudden, we've now graduated to a internet-based terminal with thermal paper, which you are probably all using now, which is a much faster application, and it's fairly efficient, but it still has its drawbacks. And the main drawback that we found and why we exist is because of human error. When people get busy and they're typing on a small terminal and punching in numbers, they make mistakes. Unfortunately, those mistakes are not found immediately. If they are, the sale is immediately reversed, that transaction is voided, and they enter in another one. If it isn't found, a customer gets home, looks at their invoice, looks at their credit card receipt, and finds out it doesn't match. If the credit card charge is less than the invoice, they're not going to call you. If the credit card charge is higher than the invoice, you can bet you're going to get a very interesting phone call. And it just slows down the process. So, of course, all the tech geeks like our crew come together and they try to come up with a solution on how to fix this, and what it's now developed into is what we call a fully integrated system. Everybody on this phone call has talked to and been in a store or a business where they use a terminal with a credit card, and out spits a couple of receipts, and one of them is stapled to the one that comes out of the cash register, and there's paper flying all over the place. And you've also been into stores that have a swiper up on the side of the monitor or maybe on a keyboard, and there's a lot less typing, and you're not figuring out why, and all of a sudden the receipt is split out. Automatically you sign one piece of paper and it's all done. That is a fully integrated system. The point of sale system is transferring the amount of the charge straight through the credit card processor without human intervention, and that is the important part. We get rid of human error. There are no mistakes. If there are no mistakes, at the end of the day, whoever is balancing the cash register is not going to have an issue with credit card receipts. Because for those of you that have had to balance your cash register at the end of the day and the numbers don't match, it is frustrating. You waste time, you waste money. So our forte, what Charge-A-Pro and Payment Processing Partners does, is we meet groups like Lanier, and we offer to go ahead and combine our technology to be able to write what we call a fully integrated system, and that's what we've done. And what that gives their clients is the ability to streamline the process of taking money, keeping the customer happy because you're in and out of there in 2 to 3 seconds in terms of trying to slide a credit card. There's no human error. You can't possibly make a mistake. And of course, whenever you save time, you're saving money. And because you're now utilizing a PC-based system rather than a separate terminal, what are the advantages there? Well, you can type on your keyboard. You don't have to type on a small terminal, and especially for those of us that are somewhat sight impaired as we get older, that really is a definite benefit. You can now write reports. If you want to analyze what sort of credit card revenue you're taking in with a PC-based system, you can write reports to your heart's content. But the real benefit, particularly during the high season, is the speed. There's no backup when you're trying to sell goods and services. A credit card transaction takes between 1.5 to 2.5 seconds on the average. And for those of you that are still on the phone line, you're sitting there tapping your foot, waiting for that machine to activate. So what are some of the other advantages of a fully integrated system? Well, if you batch out by 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you'll have your money the next day. What's also another advantage is that the way we handle our credit card processing is we charge all the fees at the end of the month, not daily. For those people that have a processor that charge daily, it sends accountants into an absolute rage. They can't figure it out. And the part that I like best, because I don't have a PhD, is because I can actually read our month-end statements. We look at statements from different prospects all the time, and some of them are so confusing you can't figure out what they're talking about, even though you've got a college degree. Now, does anybody on this phone call take American Express?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
You do? Okay. So what happens when you take American Express, typically you get a separate statement, don't you?
I don't do any of the bookkeeping. I don't know.
Okay, so what happens is American Express is kind of a cocky credit card, as you well know. It's
Yeah.
horribly expensive, and they like to do things the way they like to do things. So with most people that sign up with American Express, you have a separate statement, so your bookkeeper has now twice as much work, and they like to pay very, very slowly. Sometimes they'll wait 4 or 5 days to pay you, which really isn't good for cash flow. Well, Payment Processing Partners, along with ChargeAPro, has developed a relationship with American Express called the One Point Program, which means we'll combine all the American Express revenue, along with your MasterCard, your Visa, and your Discover. And I know this is relevant only to you, Amanda, but for those people that are ever going to take it, it improves your cash flow greatly. You get the money the next day. And in economic times the way they are, particularly in the slow season, that is very, very helpful. There's also something called PCI compliance, which you all may have heard about. Maybe you've seen it on some of your statements. And not to get into any great detail, but we are fully PCI compliant, and we guide you through the PCI compliance issues that you have to have. And then there's something else about credit card processing, and that's the hardware that's involved. The terminals that you're using now on the market today are worth about $125 on the average. I've seen people pay $400 and $500 for them. I've seen people get talked into signing $40 a month leases for the next 3 years. And that's been a horrible, if not ugly, part of my business in that sometimes people are taken advantage of. The way a fully integrated credit card system works, the way we have it developed with Winboats, is you pay $66 for a credit card swipe, so you can have as many as you want. And if you decide PIN debit is important to you, that particular machine itself costs $125. There's no leasing, no rental. You are good to go. And something else that I think is very unique to your business, because you're in the recreation business and Saturday and Sundays are very important to you, is that the relationship that we've developed with Winboats, we promise very strong customer support on weekends, vacations, holidays, 24/7. Now, I don't know if you all saw that email blast that we sent out some time ago that talked about some of the advantages of full integration, and hopefully it's still in your email somewhere. But our agreement is to either match or outperform the credit card processing rates you are paying now. And we can hold to that about 95% of the time. However, if you're married or sleeping with anybody at your local bank, there's no way we can touch it. That's called a sweetheart deal, and we're actually going to have to refuse the business at that point. And last and not least, we are so confident of our service and our rates that we do not believe in termination fees. As I just spoke with Danny, he's got an agreement that says if he doesn't stay on board for another 6 months and he tries to get out early, he's going to have to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars. We don't believe in that. It's real simple. If you're unhappy with me because of my service or my pricing, you can walk away, and I'm not going to hold it against you or send you a bill. Now, the last and most important feature is something that Congress did last October. It was called the Durbin Amendment. Banks have been getting greedier and greedier, not that that's a surprise to any of us, and they were starting to charge exorbitant rates for debit card transactions, so high, in fact, that they were almost as expensive as credit card transactions. Nobody was keeping track of it, and of course merchants were starting to look at their statements and going, wait a minute, taking a debit card, the cash is guaranteed. Why am I paying so much? Well, Congress slapped the hands of all the banks, and I don't know if you remember, but last October, Bank of America wanted to charge all their debit card holders $5 a month for their debit cards. Anybody remember that?
Yep.
Okay, so the reason is because all of a sudden Congress took away billions and billions of dollars worth of debit card revenue because they finally put a limit on how much banks could charge for debit cards, and it's about time. It was getting insane. If somebody sold a $5 candy bar with a debit card, it was costing them 7, 8, 9, 10%, and that just wasn't fair to the merchant. Well, so the banks have finally kicked in and gone along with what Congress has said, and they put a limit. So debit cards are now running somewhere between 0.5% and 1%, which is where they belong. But that is only true if you are being billed on what's called the interchange plus method of credit card pricing. And what we see is still so many merchants are being billed on what's called the tiered pricing, which means you have a certain percentage for cards with no rewards, you have another percentage for cards with a medium level of rewards, and you have a higher percentage for cards that offer 2 miles per dollar spent, your car wash, your theater tickets, everything else that comes along with it. You're paying upwards of 3% for those cards. So what is really critical, whether or not you decide to follow up and integrate your credit card processing with Winboats, is you make sure your credit card company is charging you on what's called interchange plus. And if they hem and they haw and they try to backpedal a little bit, tell them that that's what you want. So I think it's clear to say that the integration feature is going to provide you with savings in terms of time, possible savings in terms of processing fees, and it's definitely going to make your life a lot easier. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. And so, John, do you want to take us and show us a little bit on your screen? Maybe
Sure.
water skiing boats on Lake Tahoe?
Yeah. I'll just show, I mean, I think most of you are probably familiar with, cashiering out a customer. So I'll just take a customer invoice here with some parts on it, et cetera. And once you have the Charge It Pro integrated on your system, in order to cash something out, you do exactly the same way. So you just go to Cashier. You'd have different options now of bill the customer, cash, Charge It Pro credit, Charge It Pro debit card, or check. So we can just say Charge It Pro credit, select the balance due, and click OK. It will then, whoops, sorry guys, let me show you that. This dialog then pops up, and you can just swipe the card and click Process. Oops, I got to fix that. Hang on, let me show. Sorry, guys. So it comes right back with the and it's done. It's all approved. Click Close. Boom, they're finished. Print that out, and you're done.
So that interim screen that came up doesn't normally come up during a transaction, right?
The interim screen.
The little screen that popped up right there in between.
Yeah, well, the one that does pop up when you do it here. Let's leave it so that you can see it. I'll do another one here. Okay.